The hard lockdown may be over, but the effects of it still linger. Business seems to be the main casualty. This March saw almost 50% more businesses close than were closed in March last year. This is one of the findings of a Beyond COVID survey. Let's get more details now from Lings Naidoo, who was involved with that study. A very good afternoon to you, Lings, and thank you so much for your time. Are we looking at small businesses that have closed in more between last year and this year, or even big businesses have suffered?
Thank you so much, Morena, for having us on the show. Really appreciate it, and a warm welcome to your viewers. Both are affected, although our analysis indicates very clearly that SMMEs are bearing the brunt of that of the COVID-19 impact. So if we look at numbers, 115,000 SMME businesses have closed since the start of Beyond COVID, and they've shed in the region of almost 1 million jobs to date. So the picture for SMME is certainly, looking much bleaker than the larger companies.
Is this perhaps a matter of funding, and that there was no funding even pre-COVID? Because obviously during the COVID period and the pandemic, very little money would have been able to be given to businesses given the situation that the country has been facing. So has this been a matter of, it's essentially the repercussions of funding that had not been there initially?
Funding has certainly played a huge role. So SMMEs, even at the moment, indicate that in order for them to stay open over the next 12 months, they'll need something like 1.2 trillion rands. And if we look at the amount of government money that government has available, after social spending and interest repayments in the public sector bill, government has something like 600 billion rands available. So clearly government on its own is not going to be able to foot the bill in terms of getting SMMEs up and running again. What is key is that corporates, the larger guys, step forward. We know that mining has had quite a good bounce back. So 12% of mining companies actually are operating above capacity. If we look within sectors, in agriculture as an example, 63% of larger agricultural companies are actually back to business as usual, whereas for smaller SMMEs, that figure is only 13%. So we really need not just government, but the corporate sector to step forward and assist the smaller businesses bounce back from COVID-19. That's absolutely critical.
Just in addition to that question, Lings, has COVID-19, has the pandemic, has the suffering of businesses over the course of the year and just over a year essentially exposed a problem that had been there, that had been needing some kind of address from government? And obviously government will always be the first to be looked at, and I hear you also bringing in the bigger corporations, but has this been the problem that we're seeing now with thousands of companies closing and millions of jobs being lost, something that should have been addressed a long time ago already?
Certainly COVID-19 has highlighted fault lines in our economy that have been there for a very, very long time. So the SMME problem, and opportunity is not a new one. On the opportunity side, we know that 90% of new jobs will come from the SMME sector. But we really hit the point, Morena, I think, where it's time for us to stop talking and start doing. As you're aware, I'm a founder of Beyond COVID, but I'm also a director with RedFlank, which is one of the founding companies behind Beyond COVID. We've contributed 3% of our revenues already to Beyond COVID. And if you add in the time that people from RedFlank have thrown in, that's 100% of our revenues that we contributed. Government is doing a lot. I think there's an opportunity for government to collaborate more with the private sector for us to ensure that SMMEs are provided integrated rather than point support. And there really is a fantastic opportunity in our current circumstances to address the long-standing issues with SMMEs. And we really need both government and the corporate sector to come forward. And Beyond COVID is more than willing to play that coordination role. Beyond COVID.co, I'll be more than happy to work with other players to address this very pressing problem.
And just lastly, before I let you go, Lings, I am an optimist. So I am of the belief that in every issue there is a silver lining. So there's a positive that you can get out of it. Has the issues that the pandemic has presented to small businesses given an opportunity for there to be even greater growth going forward?
Certainly. Look, we need to be realistic in that our surveys indicate sentiment is at the level where people are saying another 3.5 years. If we look at the 1.2 million jobs that have been shed by the SMME sector, government on its own adds about 140,000 jobs a year. So we're looking at about a 7-year haul. But I truly believe, and I join you in needing to take an optimistic perspective here, which is really now's the time to address the fault lines. SMMEs don't want handouts. They want support that is complete, covering all 6 areas of where they need assistance, as opposed to the 3 that government and private sector tends to focus on. And with that, I think we can really turn this into a good, positive story for SMMEs and for the South African economy going forward. So I like your perspective. Positive is the way we need to go. Now is the time. We all need to step forward and make a difference.
Lings, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is Lings Naidoo, who is the director of RedFlank and, of course, was involved in the Beyond COVID survey.